Hey guys, this is a cheap mechanical keyboard from Amazon. Let's mod it. But first, let's hear it. This one has clicky blue switches. Called the Motospeed CK61, you can fetch these on Amazon for around £25. It's a surprisingly good deal for having mechanical switches and actual RGB lighting in a small 60% layout. Our mods will involve upgrading the keycaps, changing the switches, and throwing in some sound dampening. The keycaps are standard in these budget boards, but interesting nonetheless. Firstly, they're made of ABS, which is a cheaper but less durable plastic compared to the other type, PBT. But the keycaps are double shot. Its legends are a separate piece of plastic and will never wear out. Of course, they're clearish to let through the RGB. What's notable are the enclosed parts of the legends. In order to simplify production and reduce costs, they are stenciled open. Finally, they're about 0.85mm thick, which is pretty thin. Next up will be its switches. The Motospeed comes with Utemu red linears or blue clickies like this one. Yeah, they're real loud. Even though these Utemus are copies of the well-known Cherry MX Blue, they feel a tinge more tactile and sound much harsher. I prefer them. Unfortunately, these need to go as I've taken this to college and was almost beheaded. After removing all screws on this plate, we can get to the PCB. Unfortunately for this keyboard, its switches are not hot swappable. You can find cheap boards that have this feature, but they come with a caveat. They normally use the Utemu type sockets, which are not compatible with Cherry and Kale switches, so I'd rather whip out my soldering iron. On second thought, I've tried adding solder, using a wick, and abusing the desoldering pump until it broke. It's unexpectedly abominable. Our last resort is to melt both contact pins and pull the switch at the same time. I'll spare you the pain. Here is the plate, not the straightest and is made of aluminium, but is of good thickness. No wonder the keyboard's so light. Though my surprise comes from the factory lube stabilizers. To match the color of our new keycaps, let's paint the bottom shell and plate. We have to remove all stickers and feet, including their stubborn backing. Hand sanitizer's okay, but not as good as pure isopropyl. Smooth surfaces also need to be roughed up with 1200 grit sandpaper. And here's our spray painting arsenal, a primer to help with adhesion and durability, and two colors, satin cream and Ford Sierra beige. Remember to wear protective clothing, especially a cartridge mask and goggles. The cans are first brought up to a warm temperature to prevent clumps, and we can get spraying. The shell is propped up to allow full coverage of the sides, and it's good to spray in long even coats, going past the piece each time. Each coat takes 15 minutes to dry. Hairy stuff sticking is inevitable. Once dried, gently sand them off. And after 2 coats at the bottom, the inner sides of our shell are also primed. We'll leave this overnight. This particular satin cream wasn't as stellar. It spews out clumps despite being warmed up, like bits are starting to dry up in the can. Do you know what it could be? Anyways, what else surprised me is the need to heat dry our shell in frosty temperatures. Let's move on to the plate. I lazily went ahead without primer, with real good results. Though it's at this point that Sierra beige looks too similar to cream. This signal brown from Rust-Oleum is what I'm more after. While the plate's drying, here are the new switches. KTT red wines, light springed linears that sound good, are real smooth, and cheap. Do note that linear switches have a different sound and feel from clickies, foregoing both the tactile bump and click. Though my personal issue is how feathery they are, which means let's mod them. First, we crack them open with a switch opener. Then we replace the spring with a heavier one, from 55 grams to 70. In addition, these are longer to bump up the actuation force and at the top of the keystroke. Heavier isn't better per se, being all about preference. To reduce spring noise such as pinging, we'll be lubing them with Krytox GPL 105 oil. Straight in the bag. At this point, you could lube the switch itself, this time using the Krytox GPL 205 G0 grease, ideal for linears. You swipe at the rails on the bottom housing, this cylindrical bit where the spring resides, as well as all four sides of the stem. Be aware that tactile and clicky switches are lubed differently and results may vary. We can finally close it and have a listen. Even smoother and deeper in tone? I'll take it. Just have to do 60 more. And so, let's christen these the KTT Shiraz. I should have gotten the Adiron blacks. In order to suppress noise from the top plate, known as plate ping, we can buy a foam gasket that sits between it and the PCB, but somewhat being short on time, I found 2 sheets of 2mm craft foam. These are cut to size and glued together with spray adhesive. Then, with double-sided tape, we'll sandwich the plate and foam together. We just have to cut all of these out. Yeah, fun. The foam also needs to clear the stabilizers, otherwise there's a risk of keys sticking. You may notice bits of brown paint flaking off, and it's getting annoying by the minute. This is why a primer is used. So seeping in frustration, I've ripped out the foam and scraped off this stillborn of a coating to try again. What a pain in the ass. While spray painting this, another keyboard mod is filling the shell's empty space to reduce hollowness and pinging. Here's our poison, silicone mold. It's a fairly simple process of mixing equal parts of A and B and dumping it in. Well, drain holes need to be plugged. And notice how the PCB is angled against the shell. We need to tilt it so we can fill the most amount of gaps without interfering with said PCB. Just the change in weight alone makes the shell feel premium. Back to the foam, they're now pre-cut into strips, where one layer is stuck onto the plate and the other on the PCB. We finally made it. There's a plethora of Stabiliser mods, a few which will do. On disassembling them, these stems have a leg that provides cushioning when bottoming out. Let's clip all of them off and slice excess material so that the base is as flat as possible for a crisper bottom out. These other mods involve lube and a plaster by cutting a tiny slice and slotting it through the stem where the wire comes into contact. We have the Holee mod, dampening and minimizing noise in this area. Then there's the Band-Aid mod, where you stick a slice on the PCB under the stabilizers, reducing rattle. And when all that's done, let's lube all contact points with Krytox 205 G0. Looking good. This is going to be fun. The original soldering looks really good, with no residue whatsoever. Watch me attempt to get anywhere close. The Shiraz switches are pre-installed onto the plate, and making sure all contact pins are straight, they're slotted through the PCB. It's not too bad, but not good either. I've ruined these stickers. Not that it matters, but a small undiagnosed part of me is bothered. So these are scanned to be reworked on the PC. Some basic graphic skills get us a more personalized, simpler design. Then they're printed on an ordinary inkjet printer using sticker paper and sliced to size. Well, they're a tinge smaller despite printing settings, but looks alright. Now, imagine my curiosity when I found these rubber O-rings. We can dampen the interface between the plate and the shell by snapping 1mm off these standoffs in place of O-rings. Moreover, the Gasket Mod is well known in the mech board community, where you sandwich a giant O-ring between the plate and the PCB and fits snugly in the shell. We don't have that, so perhaps foam might do the trick instead. We have one last mod to cram in before assembly, by sticking layers of tape under the PCB to get a deeper sound. Finally, the keycaps. This is the Taihao Vintage Camel, a lovely retro-esque set with caramel legends and modifiers. Being double-shot ABS at around 1.35mm, they are thicker than the original, though perhaps not enough to be acoustically different. I suppose we can explore this a little further. So I've picked up a classic looking set by Shenpo, made of chunky 1.5mm PBT with dye sublimated legends. Let's see for ourselves. In addition to that, the colors of the Taihao don't match our shell, nor the reddish brown plate. So, in the Shenpos go. And here it is, the 25-pound Amazon keyboard, transformed. Let's have a listen. I'm happy with how this keyboard turned out. It sounds deep and premium, the key feels butter smooth with really good weighting, and it's got the neo-retro appearance that I crave. And as for doing the mods themselves, I'm fairly new to this mechanical keyboard space, so this had all been my first time modding one. Do let us know what I could improve on, I would greatly appreciate it. And so this is the budding engineer. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have had a good Christmas, and well, here's to a good new year. Cheers, and see you soon.